Folklore, unexplained mysteries, paranormal events. This is Supernatural Charlotte. You awake in the night to the sound of someone crying and slamming their body into the wall next to you. But the adjoining apartment is empty. Out of all of the supernatural occurrences in the Queen City, there is none more shrouded in secrecy than the Tryon-house-apartments. Formerly known as Guthery-house-apartments, when it was built in 1918, the site is home to a deadly, violent fire.
The tryon-house-apartments, they were built in 1918. Then back in March 13th, 1940, there was this wicked fire. 6 people died, 9 were injured. It started in the boiler room in the basement, and then it got so hot that it actually melted the gas meters, which caused them to shoot a fireball up the elevator shaft. Not much was talked about after that point, and then back in '92, the apartment manager started speaking out about it, about how most of his tenants had similar stories, whether it would be they were hearing crying from the other side of the wall, hearing bodies tossed against the wall with no one on the other side, and then a common one is hearing or seeing blood seep from the walls in their dreams. A few different people said that. They're not too vocal about it now, but it's a common occurrence for people that live there.
I lived at the Guthrie Apartments near around 2010, slightly before. It was an interesting place to live as a young person uptown. It was cheap back then. I think my rent was only $600 a month. It definitely has some energies in my experience. There were areas that it was palatable when you would cross into certain parts of the building. It would seem to be colder, or it would creep you out. In some ways, my own place, I always felt like I was being watched. My neighbors had what claimed to have, more spectral type experiences. There were people who said they, saw figures, like hanging figures, or, people moving throughout. There was always reports of noises that seemed to defy explanation or after investigation.
At random times, I'll get a knock on my door. The weird thing about the tryon-house-apartments is it's a double door entrance to each apartment, or for most of them. First one's like a porch door, and it has, those shutters that have the lines of wood? So that's the first door, and then you have the normal door. Well, when you knock, you would have to open the first door to get the normal sounding knock, but the door was never open. So every time I hear that knock, and it's happened like 3 times since I've lived here, I go to the door and I'm like, wait, no one's there, because no one has opened the first door, and I don't hear anyone close it either.
One of my neighbors, he lived on the first floor next to his mother. His mother had an apartment, and then Albert had his apartment. But Albert also was kind of a collector, and he liked to collect stuff. Down in the laundry room, people would put jackets they no longer wanted, shoes they no longer wanted. So also down there, people would have paintings. Albert would collect stuff like that, and that was in his apartment. And I was visiting one day, and Albert pointed to some paintings. And he said that those paintings belonged to a woman named Rowena. Rowena was one of the people who died in the fire in 1940, according to Albert. So he had those up on his wall, he's pointing them out to me, and then he tells me the story about it. And the story is that he put up one of those paintings in his bedroom. And then every night for a while, like clockwork, he was sure it was Rowena. Like this figure would come in. He couldn't see it too well. He said it was kind of hazy, like he hadn't put his glasses on. And she would just stand there at the foot of his bed. And Albert got the idea that Rowena was just going there to make sure her stuff was taken care of, that her painting was okay.
Well, I definitely felt like the energies in the front half of the building, the side that faces Tryon Street, were much denser and darker. You could feel it palatably when you crossed through where the buildings were connected. in the center. They were definitely stronger and darker in the front half, but they were there in the back half, the side that faces College Street. I've lived in a lot of old buildings, and I've lived in some older towns, and I do think that places pick up energetic imprints. I'm not gonna say any more than that. I'm pretty skeptical about some other things, but you just learn to live with it. You just accept that places have a history, and that history was always moving forward, and you're part of that history, and I think that you're gonna leave your own energies behind in the place that you live and spend a lot of time in, and it's just natural.
The current staff remains tight-lipped when asked about any supernatural energies or hauntings. WCCB Charlotte has reached out multiple times, and the staff says they've seen the past reports but are working hard to change the narrative and sell apartments. And understandably so. After all, they are moderately priced, well-staged apartments. But if you're looking for a room in the Tryon House, just keep in mind the fire is cemented as part of the Tryon House's history, and the rest will chalk up to being one of the greatest urban legends of supernatural Charlotte. Don't miss the final season of Supernatural, Thursdays at 8 on WCCB, Charlotte's CW.